along to dinner. This is gonna take a little bit more prep, a little bit more planning, but the most important meal of the day. And as long as you're doing your preparations early on Sunday evenings for the whole week, and if you have everything ready and planned out in your fridge, you just can come home and pull it out and start working. The first thing that I really want to get into and educate everybody on is, what are you cooking in? Okay, so for a long time, I thought it was okay to be cooking in Teflon pans. And the problem with Teflon pans is they've actually been outlawed in a lot of other countries, because when you cook in it, the high heats are actually releasing the Teflon chemical, and that's going into your food and into the air, and it's very toxic. It can lead to things like MS, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, but on an everyday basis, you don't want to be ingesting anything from a Teflon pan. This would also be a non-stick pan or a Keflon pan. So really the best options for pans in order for you to cook in are, my first and foremost and favorite is stainless steel. Stainless steel is awesome. There's no chemicals that are released, and you can cook at high heats in this. Another good option is cast iron skillets. So cast iron is a great option, and they've lasted time. People have been cooking with cast iron skillets for the last 100 years. But the other good thing about cast iron skillets is it is going to release a little bit of the iron. So if you are anemic or you need more iron in your diet, if you start cooking with a cast iron skillet, you're going to be able to get some of it from your iron skillet. One more thing with this, make sure that you are not washing this with any soaps or any emulsifiers. You just want to be washing this with water. And then lastly, there's ceramic pans out there, and ceramic is another good option for high heats. There's no chemicals that are released from this, and you can easily saute anything in a ceramic pan. So this is actually the pan that we're going to use today, because this is what I most commonly use. Second thing that you want to think about if you are going to be sauteing or making something on a skillet is, what kind of oils are you going to use? And if you all have gone through our makeover series or read our nutrition book or been at any of our events and learned about oils, you're going to know that there's good fats and there's bad fats, and a lot of those come from the oils that we ingest. So I actually have a few of the bad oils that I wanted to go through with you here first. The first one is canola oil. Canola, there is no such thing as a canola plant, so it's completely synthetic. And these oils, all the ones that I'm going to be talking about, cause congestion in your cells. This means that your cells literally can't breathe or get oxygen and nutrients into them. And so they're often causing inflammation, they die off early, or they mutate. And a lot of mutated cells is what we call what? Right, we call it cancer. So canola oil is one you're going to want to stay away from. Vegetable oil is also one that you're going to want to stay away from. I know that in the media they've taught you that this is where you can get your vegetables from, but true vegetable oil is actually rotten vegetables that are processed, that they put perfumes in and put them in a bottle and package it and sell it to you. So this is just rotten vegetables that you be drinking or eating. And again, this is causing the congestion in your cells and leading to things like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, weight gain, any of those things. So another option that people feel like is a good option for cooking and baking is Crisco. And why you want to be avoiding this is because it has, again, congesting fats in it. It's got palm oil and partially hydrogenated oils, which is going to congest your cells, and the oxygen's not going to be able to get in, and nutrients aren't going to be able to get in. Also added in this one, this is just a side note as I was looking at it, it has TBHQ, which is flame retardant. And so literally you'd be drinking whatever they put into a fire hydrant or into a fire hose. So better options we're going to get into next, but avoiding Crisco when you're cooking. And then the second one that you also want to be avoiding is margarine. So literally they have done experiments. I haven't tried this myself, but this is basically plastic. and I don't want to be eating plastic, and I don't want you eating plastic. But if you take margarine, unwrap it, put it in your garage with a stick of butter, nothing will eat this margarine because there is no nutrient value to it. And again, if you look at the ingredients in it here, it's got hydrogenated oil, partially hydrogenated oil, a lot of things that are going to congest your cells. So you want to be avoiding margarine at all costs when you're cooking, baking, or sauteing anything. And then the last one that I wanted to show you is I am an advocate for butter, but you want to make sure that your butter is coming from an organic source and a non-denatured source, because this butter right here that came from non-organic cows is going to have the same thing that all of our dairy has. It has over 100 different sources of hormones, bacteria, but also all of the injections of the antibiotics that are going into these cows. And this one will really gross you out. In our milk and in our cheeses and in our butter that is non-organic, you ingest blood and pus from that cow. And that's even more disgusting. So hopefully you guys actually start to make the transition to using real butter and to using good products in order for you to cook healthy. So now we're going to move to the good fats, fats that are good for you, things that you do want to use when you're cooking. And one of my absolute favorites is actually butter that comes from a grass-fed organic source. So the reason you want to make sure that it's grass-fed butter is because whatever those cows eat is exactly what you're eating. So if they're eating grains, they're being pumped full of hormones. If they're being pumped full of cookies and candies and those things, that's exactly what you're going to be getting when you eat the butter. So this comes from a grass-fed source, so you're going to be getting good, great nutrients, but it also has all sorts of good fats to be feeding your hormones, feeding your digestive system, and feeding all of your good cells so that they can breathe, they can get nutrients, and they can actually produce healthy cells. So I've got a little bit of butter here that we're going to be using to saute our steak. Another good option for cooking is coconut oil. And so coconut oil has a high heat capacity. So if you're cooking anything over 350 degrees on the skillet or in the oven, you need an oil that has a high heat capacity so that it's not denatured and broken down. And so this is a good source for coconut oil. It's organic, extra virgin, unrefined. You also want to make sure if you are shopping for your coconut oil that it says unrefined. And so my husband always corrects me because sometimes we're shopping and I just inadvertently grab this coconut oil and it actually says refined on the bottom portion of it. This is denaturing the fat and you're not getting all the good fats, and this can actually cause cellular congestion like we were talking about with vegetable oils and canola oil. So you're going to want to avoid this one as well. So we're going to put this on the bad side of the table. So we've got our good coconut oil, we've got our butter if you want to cook with that, and then the last one that's a good option for cooking and baking is grapeseed oil. This also has a high heat capacity and it's also going to feed your hormones and healthy cells inside of your body. So you've got 3 options for cooking. Now a lot of people ask me about olive oil. Olive oil has a low heat capacity, so you're not going to be wanting to saute anything with olive oil or be cooking with olive oil. But olive oil is a great source if you're using it for salad dressings or using it in any temperatures below 350 degrees. And when you search for an olive oil that's good, you want to make sure that it's in a bottle that is dark, so it's not exposed to light. And you want to make sure that it's extra virgin and that it's also certified and organic as well. So this is a good source of olive oil that I picked up at our local grocery store. All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to start with our choice for our meal is just going to be simply broccoli. So it's organic broccoli, which means that there's no pesticides and it's grown organically so that it's coming from a good soil and nutrient source. And then I've also added just some chopped up onions. This is a Vidalia onion. It gives it a little bit more flavor and also is going to give you a second vegetable source for your dinner in the evening. And so all I do is literally chop these up, put them in a glass dish, and then I'm going to use our grapeseed oil because it has a high heat capacity like we just talked about. And I'm going to drizzle it over the top of everything in here. And don't be afraid to put a lot of oil in it because the oil is good for you. Remember, the actual oil and fats are going to help you lose weight and burn fat. Second, I'm really just going to take sea salt. You want to make sure that it's sea salt and not table salt, because table salt has sugar added to it. You don't want to be sprinkling sugar on any of your vegetables. But I'm just going to sprinkle sea salt across the top of it, and I like my stuff really salty, so I go back and forth a little bit. And then finally, I'm going to just add black pepper to it. So all I'm adding is oil, salt, black pepper, and the vegetables. And then we're going to stick this in the oven. I've already heated the oven up to 400. I'm going to stick it in the oven and let it cook for anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, making sure you're checking it until it actually starts to look like it's baked and it's cooked well. So I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to put this in the oven and let it cook. And then we're going to prep our steak. So again, I want to talk to you about the meats that you use and you eat. You want to make sure that you're getting meats from a grass-fed source, from an organic source, because the law of bioaccumulation applies to your meats as well as your dairy products. So whatever those cows are eating, you're going to be eating. So this is from our local grocery store. It's a grass-fed tenderloin. And it's from an organic source. It's from Whole Foods. And simply all I'm going to do is season this before we put it on the skillet. So I just like a little bit of salt as well as a little bit of pepper. And then I like to make sure that you get both sides of it. So I'm going to flip it over. And then I chose to use our ceramic skillet. And I like the ceramic the best. It seems to be the easiest for me to cook in. And then my favorite thing to saute, whether it's steak or chicken in, is butter. So I'm going to go ahead and get, this is probably a whole tablespoon of butter. And I would put this in the skillet and let the butter melt first and heat up the pan before I actually put the steak in. So you're going to cook your steak to your liking, whether you want it medium, medium rare, or well done, and so you're going to be monitoring that as well. So just closing everything together from today, wanting you to keep things as simple as possible. Make sure that you're planning your meals on Sunday, doing all your grocery shopping so you're not having to run back and forth from the grocery store during the week, and just making your meals as simple as possible, not making it too extravagant. But as you can see, with all of the good whole foods that we showed you today, you can still have a great tasting meal, provide health for you and your family, and still get great results on this program. So most of all, I want to make sure that you're not overwhelmed after we've shared all this with you, and you're excited to step in and start to make these changes in your life. And you'll just see how easy it is, that it just becomes a lifestyle after you start using cooking, and your life just starts to transition to exactly what we were doing here today,